Matt Eberflus is fired. We had big wins, frustrating losses. The storylines from Week 13 abound, and we're going to break them down for you here today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase.
Joe, this was a lot of high leverage opportunities across the league. Baltimore falling to Philadelphia on the 4 o'clock slate. You had some NFC South fireworks throughout the course of this weekend. You had a lot of games that were closely contested games coming right down to the wire between Kansas City on Black Friday, the Chargers-Falcons game. Somehow Cincinnati's defense found a way to manage a new low and score more than 30-something points again and lose again this season. But nobody lost more than Matt Eberflus, who lost his job on Friday after as baffling of an end-of-game sequence as I think you can possibly construct at the professional level, with being in field goal territory with timeouts and more than a minute left on the play clock and running like 2 plays in the final minute of regulation with a timeout on the board.
It's tough to watch, man. Tough to watch. And the storylines coming out with how the players responded, you hear about big meltdowns, big blunders, and people say, he's going to lose the locker room, going to lose the players. He did. Like this feels like it was definitely that, where this was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, you just listen to, did you listen to Caleb Williams' recount of the situation after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
And like, he didn't have the facts right.
Yeah.
About like, they had a time. Like, I don't think he knew they had a timeout initially, because he said he had to call play for the end zone because they wouldn't have had time if it was completed in bounds, but they had a timeout.
Yeah.
And like he said, he didn't want to use the timeout because he's not the head coach of the team, but yet he changed the play call.
Yeah.
And like when I did the 33rd team story on, like, Caleb Williams is exactly who you thought he was coming out of USC. And like Chicago and what they have provided him has not lived up to what it needed to be for providing the right kind of structure around him. One of the things that, as I watched Chicago, it really struck me was like, there's too much happening. Like, I think this is a player that has too many things at his disposal that I don't know that he's necessarily ready to use yet. And changing the call at the line of scrimmage after taking a sack, but not having the liberty to take a timeout, is like the perfect embodiment of, and did you not take the timeout because, like, I don't know, has Chicago ever spiked the ball this season? Do they have the structure to get up in regulation and spike a ball and stop? Like, it's such a basic thing, but it's like, for Matt Eberflus to say, oh, we ran it exactly how we wanted it to, like, there's obviously core, like, fundamental basic issues if that's how you intended to do it. And if you're going up there and line that bad and you don't have something better to say, then I think that's probably a fireable offense too.
In processing what's happened, I've tried to make sure that I've been fair in my criticisms towards Matt Eberflus in addition to Caleb Williams. I don't think Caleb Williams is off the hook. I think he has to be more situationally here. But the blame that goes to Matt Eberflus is significantly more because he's got to be coached for that moment. Right? He's a rookie quarterback. Right. It's a high leverage moment. I mean, really, season on the line, you lost a bunch of games in a row. You think if you can beat Detroit Lions on a short week, Thanksgiving, like that could be the spark plug that you need to move forward. And instead, it's the exact opposite. Eberflus didn't have his team ready to go. And it's been other moments like this where there's just been goofy, where the players just in the moment didn't know how to act, didn't know what to do, and it cost them another heartbreaking loss. And so it felt inevitable that Matt Eberflus was going to get canned. And for the first time in the history of the Chicago Bears, they do it in season. Yeah. I don't think they had a choice. I think they had to do it.
Yeah, especially this was your gap where you had extra time because you played on a short week.
Yeah.
But so now the interim head coach had only been the interim offensive coordinator for a week. Thomas Brown.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot to put him in too.
No doubt.
I hope he does well with it because I like his resume a lot. There's been a lot of great things that I've heard said about Thomas Brown, but I cannot think of a less ideal situation than, oh, you just took over play calling. Now you're going to take over the whole team within 5 days, 8 days, whatever
insane.
It was.
Yeah. Really insane. And even the first conversation that Eberflus had coming out of the game where they made the decision to fire Shane Waldron and lean into Thomas Brown, he didn't have that answer until like later in the day.
Right.
It's goofy, man. And probably one of those guys is a better defensive coordinator than he is head coach. But this is now is this the third coach in a row for Chicago where they've drafted a first-round quarterback?
Oh, they've done it for forever. I mean, they've done it going back to Jay Cutler.
This is insane. Yeah, I mean, you wonder why they've never had quarterback production. They've never had 4,000-yard passer. It's like you never had the right plan for any of these guys you drafted. It's always been a desperation attempt to save your job. And when you don't have that consistency in place to like see through a vision. Now, look, the vision's bad. Like this one, you do what you got to do. But it gets exciting to start thinking about like, where does Chicago go? Because I feel like they need like a very strong, like institutional coach that's going to build culture and build the right dynamics in what's going to be a tough division, man. Detroit's going to be good for a while. Green Bay's going to be good for a while. Minnesota feels like they're good no matter like the amount of attrition that they face every year. Like imagine if JJ McCarthy winds up being good. It's going to be a problem, man. You gotta get this hire right, or else you're going to be at the bottom. You're going to be the Jets. You're going to be the Jets in the NFC for a long time.
Oh, well, speaking of the Jets.
Well, happy birthday, Aaron Rodgers. Can we start there? His 41st birthday.
Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's also get ready to turn the page, go to some of the other games, including Seattle winning despite the worst special teams performance of the year. I don't know how much of that game that you caught, Joe, but fumbles on kickoffs, kickoff return allowed for touchdown, not fielding another kickoff that were tackled inside the 10-yard line for. Just a disaster class experience. And then Seattle, then the punters hurt. So we're worried about, can we even kick field goals and extra points because the holder's an issue.
Yeah.
And despite it all, they go into New York and find a way to beat the Jets.
Special teams matter, dude. Like watching every game, there's something special teams wise that impacts things. And I feel like we're getting more crazy blocks, blunders, ball handling issues, missed field goals. And this is part of what I've really enjoyed about Bill Belichick as an analyst is he, on his stuff, man, he highlights his stuff every single week. And your team's got to prioritize special teams. Like you're not going to be a good football team if you're not at least being even in that phase. You can't be taking an L every week on special teams and expect to be the team that you're trying to be. And there's a lot of teams out there that just spinning their wheels, can't get the special teams figured out, and it's costing the team.
Do you want to get into this game and other games, or do you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break. We got a bunch more to get to, including Kirk Cousins. Boy,
yikes,
looking rough. Stick with us, folks. Hey, football fans, I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list, let's say, is just far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and it will make the perfect gift. It's created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers. Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles, and they've changed the game with the workout bottles. And this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com kitchengrade.com. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% off your order. These things are high quality, kitchen grade stainless steel bottles. They don't absorb odors, right? You've had those Tervis tumblers. Man, they stink after a while. You put coffee in that thing one time, it ain't going to smell right. You don't have to worry about that. And they have the patented twist-in agitator that breaks up powders, but silent when you shake it instead of the annoying ball. I'm that guy, Kyle. When I go to the gym, I go to the sauna. When I'm in the sauna, I make my protein drink. And there I am there, clanking it up and down. Everybody knows I'm in there. Well, I got an ice shaker bottle. I don't have to deal with that anymore. And that agitator works as a strainer, so it's really, really clutch for tailgating when you want to mix some drinks in there. So order your team-branded bottle today at iceshaker.com. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market, Ice Shakers. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, I love this time of year. My wife, she works really hard to make our home cozy and warm during the Christmas season. How do you stay cozy during the winter months? For some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate or watching a movie with family is the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is great for bringing yourself some comfort that never goes away even when the seasons change. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All that you need to do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Therapy is also helpful for learning positive coping skills. It helps you set boundaries and empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It's not just for people who have experienced major trauma. So make sure that you find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn.
So while you were telling everybody about ice shakers and BetterHelp, I did look it up courtesy of True Media. Seattle had the 7th worst special teams EPA game performance of the last decade. It is the 2nd worst special teams EPA game performance for a team that has won in the last decade. Only the Chicago Bears in 2017 had a worse day on special teams than Seattle did yesterday and still managed to find a way to lose a game. And only 6 teams have had a worse special teams day than Seattle did on yesterday in the last 10 years.
Good enough to beat the Jets.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Revenge game happened, right, Gino? Leonard Williams, boy.
Did you see Gino sent out the picture of that guy who went to his hater's funeral?
No, I didn't see it.
After the game?
He's had some good petty moments, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Somebody who had no good moments yesterday was Kirk Cousins. Chargers beat the Falcons on a short week coming to Atlanta.
Atlanta off the bye, right?
And Atlanta off the bye. And Atlanta found a way to manage to scratch out 13 points. Kirk gave the Chargers the game-winning score by throwing a pick six.
Yeah.
In what was, we've seen some like goofy quarterback plays, like Will Levis trying to do too much, Tua trying to throw that ball away against Buffalo on Thursday in week 2. The Kirk Cousins pick six might have been like the worst routine. I'm going to drop back and make a decision and throw the ball interception I've seen all year.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what an interception looks like when they throw it. Not that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, wait, what? You just floating this out there, baby. What are we doing?
Just casual. My kids, have you exposed your kids to any of like the 1950s, 60s songs? Like the candy shop, barbershop, the lollipop, oh, lolly. You ever hear that song?
I know the song. We haven't done that, no.
So our kids really like it for like the beat. So like it ends up playing in our house fairly often. And that song came on in my head as I'm watching Kirk throw the ball. And I had a chance to almost get through the whole course before the ball reached the defender because of how long that ball took to get, like, just no urgency to deliver the throw. I think the arm's kind of shot. It looks like it's shot. I mean, he started slow and then he kind of found his footing. And now he just looks like a guy who is coming off of an Achilles and is getting close to the age of 40.
Looking like Matt Ryan in his last games in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Everything's slow, like the footwork on the drops. They look like you got cement bricks down there. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Like you can't throw to the sideline anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, the Penix pick.
Bravo, Atlanta.
Right. I mean,
bravo. We were.
What do we do?
How do you not play him? I know there's a playoff race that you're quote unquote in, but your last 3 games, you've been an unserious football team.
I think this is what you do. You get through Minnesota this week, and then
they're going to eat Kirk alive.
Yeah, well, he needs to be the meat shield, and then welcome to the fray, Penix. You get to play the Raiders, Giants, Commanders, and Panthers to close out the season, and let's get some momentum going into next year. The problem is, dude, like they're in first place in this division, and well, they have the tiebreaker. They beat Tampa twice.
Doesn't matter.
I hear you, but also we just went through the schedule.
Made that win that Tampa pulled out in overtime against Carolina really huge.
Really huge. And how about Carolina's been scrappy? Bryce Young, I mean, like hat tip, brother. Like you're playing better. You had some big moments. The touchdown to Thielen. I mean, it was you know what? Honestly, for the Panthers, it was a great loss. Bryce Young did cool things, and you lost. You still lost the game. Who cares, right?
It's like the best thing Carolina can do is have 5 more of those games this season.
Yeah, Bryce Young plays well, and you lose. I mean,
right. So now you're now you're not in this rat race for bad quarterback play or a limited quarterback class.
Yeah,
with veterans that you don't feel a lot of enthusiasm for replacing Bryce Young. But Tampa's got Raiders at Chargers, at Cowboys, Panthers, Saints left.
Yeah, they're going to do it, aren't they? They're going to do it.
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it. Yeah. They're going to do it.
I trust them more to not make mistakes than what I trust Atlanta, especially because Tampa's run defense has started to show up this season.
Yeah, as they got more healthy, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've given up less than 80 team rushing yards in the last 3 games combined. And I know Carolina and New York were 2 of those games, but.
Yeah, dude, I think the NFC playoff field, it seems like we just need to figure out who's going to, who's winning the South, who's winning the West, right?
I think Tampa wins the South. And then the West, the Rams should feel lucky they got their stuff together after playing tiddlywinks with the Saints for the first half and then scoring 21 points in the second half.
They're not invincible, though, the Rams.
No, they're not invincible, but they at least have the excuse of we were extremely unhealthy in the first half of the season. Now we're getting healthier at the right time of year. We got young guys on defense that have played. I know they played the Bills next week.
Yeah.
So you'll lose that one, but
at San Francisco, you can win that game, right? San Francisco don't have any players, man.
I'm at the point now with the way that this season has played out for San Francisco. I'm wondering how much longer they try to stay in the fight. I mean, CMC's now presumably done for the year with a PCL injury. They got guys on IR all over the place. Are you going to bring those guys back for an outside
Warner's
chance?
Playing on a fractured ankle.
Right.
The problem is they're right there in the whole thing, right? Like they could still be the 4 seed and host a playoff game.
Well, I think that's where you look at what does their remaining schedule look like? I know we're kind of all over the map here, but
that's
a Monday show for Locked On for you.
Bears, Rams at home, to the Dolphins, host the Lions at the Cardinals,
and they're at 7 wins already. They can afford 1 loss the rest of the way, right? And have a
7 loss or 5-7, yeah,
right. So they could afford 1 loss the rest of the way and have a fighting chance to make the playoff.
They split with Seattle this year, so that's going to be helpful.
The question is, Seattle now sitting at 7 wins.
Yeah, well, and the Niners don't have much of a ceiling either, right? Like, but it probably says something that you can rally with all of. I mean, just from the contract stuff to the offseason to the attrition that's happened all season long, you come out of that with a playoff appearance, man. Pretty impressive.
That Cardinals loss yesterday at Minnesota is a real bummer.
Killer. Yeah.
because they still have Carolina and New England left on their schedule. Arizona. So, I mean, you're the difference of 6-6 and 7-5 right now with those two games left on the schedule that's a hard pill to swallow. But they play each one of the teams in the West one more time.
We're watching that the rest of the year. Be tight. Be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to get resolved until
the end. The last two games you watch this year in the regular season is going to be flexed games for the NFC West.
One will be the West, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right, we're going to talk a little bit of AFC on the other side of it. Baltimore, interesting loss they took yesterday. That and more. Be sure to stick with us. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is awesome. It gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet over at FanDuel.com. Had a good week on FanDuel. I got in on some player props for the Bills last night. Actually had Purdy under 230 passing yards. That obviously hit for me. I missed on one of the money lines, so the only pick that I've missed so far this week is the freaking Titans going up against the Commanders, but I've nailed everything else. So it just makes the Sundays that much more fun when you got a little bit of a little bit of skin in the game. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Folks, there's nothing like being at the stadium, watching your team play, watching your team score touchdowns. Well, if you want to get to the stadium, then you got to get the Game Time app. Game Time is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. The app is incredible. Yeah, they give you these flash deals. They give you a picture from your seat so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the venue. They send the ticket straight to your phone so you don't have to dig through emails to find it. And they specialize in last-minute tickets, which is incredible. You got a busy life. I know everybody does, right? Kids, family, all kinds of stuff going on. If you can't make that decision now, you can make that decision right up to the day of the event and get a great deal on a ticket. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
The whole AFC North. I mean, we'll see what the Browns do tonight. But Pittsburgh and Cincinnati playing each other. Baltimore, the Justin Tucker experience is unfortunate, I think, at this point. And obviously changed the whole outlook of that game with a 14-12 score, multiple missed kicks in the second half for Tucker. They lose by 5 points. And I know it's not as easy as that because, like, if you make the kicks, what happens after you make the kicks versus what happens when you take over and miss the kick? Like it's a different branch on the infinite timelines you could take throughout any game that you play. But Baltimore now sitting at 8-5. Got some tough games left.
Yeah.
I think they're a team that, at the very least, I'm not too worried about them falling out of the playoff field, but from a seeding purpose, there's very different feeling between being the 5 and the 7.
Oh, you're not wrong about that. It's absolutely huge. If you're the 7, you're going to either Kansas City or Buffalo.
Yeah.
If you're not, you get to go to Pittsburgh or Houston. Different, right? Those are different outcomes.
Yeah.
Baltimore is capable of not just beating any team in the NFL, but destroying any team in the NFL, right? They have that type of operation. The problem is they make a lot of mistakes, dude. They just do. They're the most penalized team in the NFL, 105 penalties. That's 5 more than any other team this year. And it just shows up when you watch them. And it's you layer the penalties with, maybe like a play fake that's not correctly executed and the ball comes loose and Lamar has to fall on it. And now you're 2nd and 14 or drops. They just make too many mistakes. The special teams stuff is starting to show up. Obviously coverage blunders. So they're talented. They're capable. Honestly, nobody really wants to play Baltimore. But they got to shore up their operation because they're not maximizing what they have this year. Lamar's having the best season of his career. Like, this is by far the best season of his career. But I don't think the team has been very good around him, to be completely honest. They just make too many mistakes.
Can I give you some context on 105 penalties?
Please.
There were only 7 teams last season that had more penalties for the entire year.
That's nuts, man.
Than Baltimore has on December 1st. There were only 7 teams that had more penalty yards assessed to them last year through 17 games than what Baltimore has assembled to this point through 13. That's brutal. And this Philly team's not the team to do it against because they're really playing good complementary football. You credit them for kind of being opportunistic throughout the course of this game. They are constructed in such a way that, they got after Lamar Jackson defensively. They are constructed in such a way that they have a lot of youth and dynamic play on the back end with these young players. And Cooper DeJean, obviously, everybody's talking about the tackle that he had on Derrick Henry in a one-on-one situation. But Quinyon Mitchell has played excellent football for them to kind of rejuvenate. The concern there was, they have Darius Slay and they're kind of stuck with the James Bradbury contract. Okay, we're just going to hit these 2 picks out of the park and we'll totally remake the whole secondary.
Right.
And then offensively, they're not even fully healthy yet with Devonta Smith.
Yeah. And they just got their offensive line back. It's
a
good operation. It's going to be fun to see between Detroit, them, Green Bay, Minnesota, who's going to be the team in the NFC.
Can I ask you a team building related question with Philly?
Sure. Yeah.
Their most popular GM candidate that they have is Andy Weidel, who was an area scout with Baltimore, and then he came to Philadelphia, and he's been in Philly for a while now. Just knowing what you know about the Eagles organizationally, and knowing this is the top GM candidate from this team, and knowing that Howie has always had a really strong football guy as his right-hand man because his background is not in the scouting and the football element. Can you think of anybody off the top of your head that you think has no-brainer, more attractive resume than the right-hand man football guy? And I know there's you probably should do some research on Andy Weidel to have a really well-rooted opinion of that. Mm-hmm. But as we're sitting here looking at GM candidates and lineages and pipelines, I have a hard time not thinking that is the guy who should be at the top of everybody's name to have an interview with.
I think Ray Agnew is probably the other name that really pops for me. That's interesting. But yeah, I think those guys are going to be GMs this offseason. You think? Plenty of opportunities.
Both of those guys are general managers in 2 months' time. Yes.
Yeah. Kyle, we got to talk about the Chiefs, man. Just real quick, because I've been the guy that's been don't do this to yourself, right? I say it, they sleepwalk, they win, they're 11-1. Just a real quick inventory of their last 5 games. The Raiders situation, right? The Raiders, what you saw, is insane. The missed field goals, the false start. They beat the Panthers 30-27. They need a game-winning drive to do it. The Panthers kick 4 33-yard field goals. Mm-hmm. They lose by 9 to the Bills. The Denver blocked field goal and a Tampa Bay win in overtime.
Yeah.
Come on. This is insane.
Well, they're going to be getting Hollywood Brown back. Their offensive line is not what it needs to be. Their tackle situation is bad.
Maybe DJ Humphries will get it going. I don't know, man.
I wouldn't count on it.
I wouldn't either.
It's a good signing for them, though.
Yeah.
Because it's about as good of an option as you're going to find at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
But, they bet on 2 day 2 picks in Wanya Morris and Kingsley Suamaatia. And neither one of them's provided value. And Jawan Taylor. Right? And this was the thing that sunk the Chiefs when they lost the Super Bowl to Tampa Bay, was the protection up front. And you might be getting ready to say goodbye to Trey Smith this offseason, too. I can't imagine they pay him on top of paying Creed what they're paying Creed and paying Joe Thuney.
Can it continue? I mean, Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos.
All right.
Who knows? They can lose.
Chargers. Is it
at
home
Cleveland,
or away?
Chargers in Kansas City.
Okay, so I think they win that because it's at home.
At the Browns.
Should probably win that game.
Host the Texans.
Is there a more underwhelming playoff team besides
Kansas
City than Houston?
They're beating Houston. They're beating Houston. In Arrowhead, no way.
Okay.
At Pittsburgh, at Denver.
I think they could lose the last two.
Like, there could be 2 losses. I don't know. They can win them all. Who freaking knows, man? Right, obviously, it's personal for me because I need to have a tied record with them for the 1 seed.
I think they're probably going to finish 14-3 or 15-2, and that's despite what is it? 14 straight 1-score wins for Kansas City. It's the most consecutive 1-score wins in the history of football.
Dude, and these aren't like, hey, they were winning 28-14 and the other team scores a garbage time touchdown.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that actually happened with Baltimore last night, right? Like, yeah, it was really a 2-score loss. They scored a garbage time touchdown. I think Lamar had over 9 fantasy points on the last drive of the game.
Right.
Right. Like, it's not that. It's pulling a rabbit out, dude, over and over. This is going to be like the worst Chiefs team with the best record. They're going to have the 1 seed. They had a week 6 bye.
They can't keep getting away with it. And then they're going to rest, and then they'll play in the divisional round. Probably against a wild card team. I don't think you look at the teams in the wild card spots and the teams that are going to win 2 of the divisions, and I might pick the wild card teams to win.
Maybe they get to host Baltimore in the second round.
That'd be fun.
Please.
Fun
yeah,
game.
That would be fun. Let's sign me up.
Joe's like, let's whittle this field as
yeah, brother. If Baltimore's a 7, you got to beat Baltimore. I don't know, man. Play them all, see what happens.
Any parting thoughts? We didn't really touch on Giants, Cowboys, mercifully. We didn't really touch on Dolphins, Packers. We didn't touch on Colts, Patriots, or Titans, Commanders.
Titans are the only pick I missed this freaking week. Kyle, what was I thinking? You did it too, so.
I did it too. Well, it's the Cliff Kingsbury tail off, the late season tail off, and
Titans had a little bit of a pulse, but man, right. 42-19. Kidding me?
Well, I mean, when I think that's the tale of 2 of these games we didn't talk about. Is when you start down 14-0 and you start down 21-0, like Miami and Tennessee did.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a hard day.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, we appreciate you guys checking out the show. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We will be back again. Levy Grails.
We got them. Yeah. Have some ease. You see some ease in the standings. We got to get to it.
So we'll get into why you as a fan base should be optimistic, despite the fact that your team was eliminated from playoff contention over the weekend, for what lies ahead for them. That's later this week here on Locked On NFL Scouting. We hope to see you then.